And how should we approach further COVID-19 relaxations? More on that coming up. Flash floods hit Kuala Lumpur again, with several major roads inundated after a downpour that started at around 3 p.m. today. At least 11 roads has been affected by the flood. They include, among others, Jalan Kuching, Jalan Tuanku Abdul Halim, Jalan Semantan, Jalan Segambut, Lebuh Sultan Iskandar, Bulatan Dato' On and Jalan Melaka. Earlier today, Met Malaysia has warned that all areas in KL, a few in Selangor and most parts of the country will be affected by dangerously high levels of rain until 8 p.m. In December last year, Klang Valley experienced one of its worst flash floods in recent history, killing 25 people, displacing thousands and causing losses worth 3.1 billion ringgit. The draft bill to ban smoking among those born in 2005 and after is expected to be tabled in Parliament in July. Health Minister Khairy Jamaluddin said that the draft bill is in the final stages of review by the Attorney General's chambers. Khairy said that several rounds of engagement, including with the cigarette industry, had been held to gather feedback from all quarters before the bill was finalised. He added that a study is also being conducted among Form 4 and Form 5 students nationwide to gauge their opinions on the matter. The initiative, he said, is also aimed at getting students who had never smoked to stay away from it, while those who have picked up the habit to quit smoking. Khairy first proposed the law to ban smoking in January for people born after 2005 as a generational endgame for smoking in the country. Under the proposed act, children born in 2005 and subsequent years are prohibited from smoking and buying or possessing any type of smoking products, including electronic cigarettes or vape products, even after reaching 18 years old. Petaling Jaya MP Maria Chin Abdullah was sentenced to 7 days in prison for contempt of court. The Kuala Lumpur Sharia Court ruled that her statement made back in September 2019 had insulted the Islamic judicial system. Sharia High Court Judge Muhammad Fauzi Mokhtar meted out the sentence against the politician over her criticism of the court's decision to jail the ex-wife of prominent businessman Dato' SM Faisal SM Nasimuddin. The article published by Maria Chin on September 5, 2019 remarked that Muslim women in Malaysia are still being discriminated against under the Sharia judicial system here. In the court's ruling today, Fauzi said that Maria's statement was unfair and factually wrong, and that she had failed to justify that her remarks did not scandalize the Islamic judicial system. The court has allowed a stay of execution, pending Maria's appeal at the Sharia Court of Appeal. The Ministry of Health is expected to announce some COVID-19 SOP relaxation this Wednesday. Public health specialist Professor Dato' Dr. Syed Muhammad Al-Junid believes now is the right time as Malaysia transitions into the endemic stage. However, he warned that the government must ensure the lifting of the curbs are done in an orderly and safe manner for the population.
The time is right for us to actually do all this loosening of the SOPs, but we have to do it with care. For example, wearing of masks is still required, especially when people are actually in crowded places, and also when we enter into the area where there's very poor ventilation. Because we must remember that even if we declare that we are in the endemic stage, it doesn't mean that the virus is not there. The virus is there, it is at the background, it is still in the community, only the frequency and also the incidents are much lower.
He also stressed the need for a heightened tracking and tracing system to avoid uncontrolled infections and possibly another lockdown.
Important thing is that during the endemic stage, if we want to do that, monitoring is very crucial. In other words, we must actually improve our surveillance system. So the healthcare staff must always make sure that we track cases whenever there are spikes of cases anywhere, and action has to be taken fast. This is to make sure that we do not have to go through the partial or complete lockdown that we have gone before, and that was the worst case scenario if we have to go into the lockdown stage, as what happened in China at the moment, which actually can have a lot of adverse effect on economy and also on the mental health of people. So that's very important for us to take this into consideration. And the other thing is that the overall health system has to be improved. At the moment, I think management of the hospital's bed, management of ICUs, we have to make sure that we do not actually go into a crisis stage again if there are small pockets of infection here and there during the endemic stage, which might happen, especially when we are talking about people going back for the Hari Raya break. So there will be gatherings in the community, gatherings among the family members, and if they do not observe the SOPs when they come into closed places, it's bound to happen where outbreaks can happen.
We'll continue after the break. Stay with us.
Insan yang berjaya juga insan seperti kita. Didorong ke azaman demi mencapai cita-cita mereka. Super. Melengkapkan juadah anda.
Kita sering menyangka rumah kita tentunya bersih, namun debu-debu yang tersembunyi tetap ada. Dyson V12 Detect Slim dengan teknologi laser pengesan debu memerangkap zarah yang tidak boleh dilihat dengan mata kasar. Kuasa sedotan menyesuaikan diri secara automatik dan penapisan keseluruhan mesin memerangkap habuk halus, membersihkan tempat yang suka dicapai dan memberikan anda bukti saintifik. Beraya di rumah yang lebih bersih bersama Dyson. Nikmati pelan ansuran faedah 0% dari Dyson.
I memang nak hidup semati beribu.
Tapi ada syarat. Bukan 1, bukan 2, tapi ada 7.
Permintaan di luar kemampuan.
Aku tak faham lah macam mana kau boleh sanggup nak jual rumah ni. Mak ni masih sugar kau, tahu tak? Kau ni memang suka kan meninggal orang yang betul-betul sayang dengan kau.
Maruah kau dipijak-pijak dengan dia.
Tolong jangan putus doakan Adam dan Hawa.
Kalau you tak boleh ikut semua syarat I, tak payahlah teruskan.
Hati mula berbelah bahagi.
Semua boleh pergi balik. Aku tak nak kahwin.
Puas hati kamu sayang. Dapat malukan keluarga. Keluarga Adam juga.
Nusyus Berkiblat Cinta. Setiap Ahad 9 malam di Astro dan On Demand.
Welcome back. The Mass Rapid Transit 3 MRT3 Circle Line project was approved by the government last month to complete Kuala Lumpur's urban rail network and improve public connectivity. However, Transparency International Malaysia cautioned the lack of publicly available information on the project and called on the government to be more transparent.
We are not against the project, but what we are concerned is, you see, these are what we call off-budget project. Meaning when it was not in the budget for the last budget, and it was suddenly it has come up, and there has been no disclosure of the relevant papers, and it has not gone through parliamentary scrutiny. So you see, a project like this, a mega project like this, you need to have the relevant justification, including the need analysis, the cost benefit, and also the ridership. Like for example, the MRT1. It was projected in the first year to have 400,000 passengers daily, but actually it's only about 175,000 passengers. So there was a shortfall about 56,000 this thing. So when you have a lower ridership, and what was your basis for justification? Because end of the day, these mega projects, they're all funded by taxpayers' money, and therefore it is very important that government must make a full disclosure.
According to a report by MIDF Research, the MRT3 project will cost an estimated 31 billion ringgit and is expected to be fully operational by 2030. The same report also highlighted that this is not the final cost. Mohan said the long development duration and high cost of the project are matters of concern.
So when you're pumping in this kind of 31 billion over the next 10 years, I can understand it excites the construction industry and the transport industry because they feel that there is no big ticket item, no big projects to stimulate the economy and create jobs and things like that. But you see, at the end of the day, any investment, it must be justified. You can't have a big mega project executed and then you don't have people taking up the MRT3. and MRT itself.
Transparency International also recommended to minimize off-budget projects. It also wants all major projects to go through parliamentary approval and proper auditing to ensure the public funds are not being misused.
And the best place for all this is always Parliament. In other words, you put up the relevant papers and let's debate it in Parliament and let Parliament approve it. The reason is very simple. This is taxpayers' money. And when you deal with taxpayers' money, there must be proper scrutiny. Okay, then the second thing, apart from being transparent, once assuming the project has been approved for implementation, the government must make sure there is proper regular audits being done. We have a string of histories in the Auditors General's report year after year. The amount of wastage, projects not completed, projects are delayed, extension of time given, but liquidated damages are not recovered, and so on and so forth. So we want to avoid that kind of thing in this kind of mega projects. And that is why not only transparency is required in these projects, but there must be proper follow-up during the execution. There must be proper audit done. And if possible, even independent experts should be roped in together with the Auditor General's office to audit the progress of this project and ensure they are completed on time and within the budget.
On to the international front. Residents in Beijing snatch food and essential items in supermarkets and online stores across the city today. They fear that Beijing could face a Shanghai-style lockdown, where about 25 million people were locked up at home for weeks. All 3.5 million residents in the city's largest Chaoyang district will undergo 3 rounds of mass testing starting today. Authorities announced yesterday that residents and workers would be tested 3 times this week, as they warned that COVID-19 had spread fast in the city before it can be detected. Shoppers crowded stores and online platforms to stock up on vegetables, fresh meat, instant noodles and rolls of toilet paper. The issue with sufficient food and essential items in Shanghai was due to lack of enough couriers to deliver to homes, fueling anger among residents. Since Friday, Beijing has reported 47 locally transmitted cases. Chaoyang accounts for more than half of it. Following an intense race against far-right presidential challenger Marine Le Pen, Emmanuel Macron was re-elected president of France for a second term on Sunday. Macron won with 58.5% of the vote to Le Pen's 41.5%, significantly closer than when they first faced off in 2017. Macron is the first sitting president in 20 years to be re-elected. In his victory speech on the Champ de Mars in Paris, Macron thanked his supporters and pledged to reunite the country and work to assuage the anger of French voters that fed Le Pen's campaign. The 44-year-old vowed to be a president for all, acknowledging that numerous voters cast ballots for him simply to keep out Le Pen's fiercely nationalist far-right policies. His challenger, Le Pen, quickly conceded defeat after the results were announced, while several hundreds anti-Macron demonstrators rallied in French cities, refusing to accept the result. More than 1 in 3 voters did not vote for either candidate, as turnout was just under 72%, the lowest in a presidential runoff since 1969. More than 3 million people cast spoil or blank votes. In the midst of Russia's invasion of Ukraine, Macron's victory was welcomed by relieved European leaders who had feared a far-right candidate who would offer a series of anti-EU policies. Will a list of priorities for good governance stop voters from being swayed by appeals to race, religion and populist measures? Tonight on Consider This, we ask our guests about the People's Agenda. That is all we have for you tonight. I'm Farhana Sheikh. Thank you for watching.
Hello and good evening. I'm Melissa Idris.
And I'm Sharad Kuttan.
Welcome to Consider This. This is the show where we want you to consider and then reconsider what you